Welcome to the weekly Health RX by Arvasi. I'm Dr. Avanti Kumar Singh.
And I'm Dr. Tanmeet Sethi. We're physicians trained in modern medicine and experts in Ayurveda. And each Sunday, we cut through the noise with physician-led, science-backed prescriptions personalized to your biology.
From your hormones and gut to your circadian rhythm and nervous system, we'll help you take care of the systems that matter most so you can stop guessing and start feeling better. Finally, medicine that fits you. Hello and welcome. This is your weekly Health RX for the week of December 14th. I'm Dr. Avanti Kumar Singh.
And I'm Dr. Tanmeet Sethi.
All right, friends, December 14th, 10 weeks into fall. Since October, you've been building a morning routine. You have your morning light, your hydration timing, a vagal tone practice, gut support. And last week, we talked to you about CCFT to clear that digestive buildup that has been building for the last 2 months. And you've done the work, but your body probably feels like it's still holding something. You can really feel it. There's that tightness across your shoulders that won't release no matter how much you stretch, or the heaviness in your legs by the time it's evening. Like you've been working all day, maybe like feeling like you've run miles and miles, even if you've been sitting all day. I know that's happening to me a lot. Your lower back might be aching. Your hips might feel locked. Everything kind of feels stuck. And at night, even when you're exhausted, your body just doesn't let go. You lie down, but you don't really sink in. You're not really resting. I know that this is really happening to me. I feel like my mind is just all over the place and that my body just feels really, really stuck and tight. And so it's almost like it's just feeling like holding this stress. I don't know how you're feeling, Tanmeet.
Oh, for sure. And actually this morning I did shout out to Tara Stiles from Strala Yoga because I did a Strala Yoga 15-minute nervous system release practice because I just am feeling it. I needed to move in a way that supported my body.
Yeah. I mean, 10 weeks of the fall season and it's getting colder and drier and, more windy, sort of mobile. That vata energy of fall is like just kicking up to sort of a peak even more. And so that chaos of the season, sort of those qualities are showing up inside of us and in our nervous system, especially, right? And then again, like we talked about last week, you add the hormonal shifts of perimenopause and menopause, and your body is just holding even more tension. And so it's almost like you really need to understand how can you release it? Because it is very hard for our bodies to release the tension just naturally. We do have to do a little bit to help our bodies do that. And so that's what we really want to talk about today.
Yeah. I mean, there's actually research on why the body holds stress, so that it really seems like if you really read the literature that there's this idea of stored tension, so that there's muscle memory around stress, that, you get tense about something, the stressor's gone, but the pattern persists. It's like you're bracing, or I think of it in my body as just, I feel on alert. I feel, kind of hyper vigilant. And so the tension isn't just in your mind. Like you can't just say, I'm going to relax. That's it. I'm going to do it right now.
Right.
You have to actually help your body do it. And so, these tension patterns, they can persist in the fascial tissue for months if they're not actively released. And so we really want to work on how to do that today. And if you add hormones into the picture, you look at the overlay of that. We have studies like the one in Menopause Journal that found that women in perimenopause and menopause have significantly higher resting muscle tension than premenopausal women, because estrogen actually affects muscle relaxation at the cellular level. So, at this point, you're carrying 10 weeks of accumulated tension in a body that's less able to let go at baseline. So that's why we're prescribing what we're prescribing this week. And we're going to talk about a yoga pose really simply called legs up the wall, or Viparita Karani, which has been studied extensively. Studies have shown that just 5 minutes of this pose reduces cortisol, lowers heart rate, and shifts the nervous system into parasympathetic mode. There's this way that this pose actually reverses blood flow gently. It activates baroreceptors in your neck that signal safety to your brain. And what I love is it lets gravity do what your mind can't. It pulls you down into stillness instead of you trying to will it to happen. And how you prepare your body before this pose actually amplifies whether you actually release or just lie there frustrated. So I'm saying that because you might have heard of this pose before and heard people saying to do it, to relax or to pull into stillness. That is true. There is a way, though, that each of your doshas might affect how easily or how that happens with prep beforehand. So why don't we talk a little bit more about the pose and the science behind it, Avanti?
Yeah, for sure. And, again, this is really important because I hear this all the time as a yoga therapist, right? I have people that will come to me and say, I don't know how I can meditate. So it's sort of the same thing. This idea of sitting still on a mat doesn't work for all people. And that's kind of what we're saying here is that the pose, legs up the wall, it will work, but how you go into it and the mindset that you have going into it actually makes a big difference in how well it works for you. So it's not that it's not going to work. It's just going to work better if you can really understand your dosha and how to prepare, which is what we're going to get to. But let's just go back for a second. We talked about Vata season, and I just want to make sure people understand why a grounding pose like legs up the wall works. And it is a grounding pose because you're lying down on the floor, grounding yourself into the earth, right? This is an antidote. It's counterbalancing the qualities of Vata, right? And that is sort of the basic principle in Ayurveda that like increases like and opposites reduce. And so when you have a season of Vata and the qualities are light, mobile, cool, dry, what you want to do to make that more balanced, to help balance it, is do the opposite. You want things that have more stability, heaviness, a little bit more oily, a little bit more warm, right? And if you think about the elements, right? Vata is air and space. The opposite of that is the earth, right? So again, grounding is earthing. It all makes sense. And so that's why a grounding pose like legs up the wall will really help shift you into this relaxation parasympathetic mode that helps to start release that tension that is being stored in the muscles, not only because of your mindset going into the holidays, the weather, but also your hormonal balance, like all the things that we just talked about. So anyway, that is why a grounding pose really works. Now, the physiology of legs up the wall, again, is what the Meath already mentioned, is that, it's helping to activate those baroreceptors in your carotid arteries, right? That sense the change in pressure, send a signal to your brain. It's safe, rest, recover. Your hip flexors, which actually have been really shortened from sitting, right? You actually get to lengthen them because you're putting them up the wall, but you're lengthening them. And this is passive without actually trying. So you're actually relaxing the muscles as well. And then, like you said, the gravity is so key because it really allows you to let go and be held by the earth. Quite literally, you're grounding, right? Which sounds so wonderful. So this is why, this really works. And again, the preparation really will help to make this pose even more powerful. So let's talk about how you actually do this. Meath, I'm going to let you go into how we actually do this pose because there is a way to do this pose.
All right. So for everyone, your prescription this week is to do 5 to 10 minutes of this pose, legs up the wall, every evening. And we really think about doing in the evening for a reason, because that's when the day's tension is fully accumulated. And so you really want to do this as a way to prepare your body for resting and not just collapsing from exhaustion. It is true that this pose can help even on its own. And then there are ways, we'll talk about just examples of how, depending on your individual dosha, you can even amplify the effect of this pose. But for now, just really focus on legs up the wall, 5 to 10 minutes with some nice, easy breathing. Do you want to talk about how to actually do it, Avanti?
Yes, absolutely. Let me describe exactly how to do this in case you're not sure. Okay. So you're going to find a wall, any wall. It could be in your bedroom, your living room, a hallway. It really doesn't matter. Just as long as there's enough room for you to lie down. You want to sit sideways with your hip touching the wall and then swing your legs up as you lower your back down to the floor. It's a little awkward the first time you do it. That's normal, but you'll get the hang of this. And so you really just want to scoot your hips as close to the wall as you can so that your legs can then rest on the wall. Okay. Now your legs can be, exactly together. You can, have them slightly apart. You want your arms resting by your sides, maybe your palms facing up, or you can also put your hands on your belly if that feels more grounding. And then if your hamstrings feel kind of tight, you can stretch a little bit. You can bend your knees and then straighten your legs. That's actually a little hamstring stretch that can help just get you settled into the pose. Now, you don't want to keep doing that throughout the pose because this is not about stretching. It's about resting, but just to get into the pose. And so once you're in that position, right, basically your bottom is up against the wall. So your hips are right against the wall and then your legs are up the wall. You're going to settle in with just some normal breathing. Okay. Just breathe normally. Let your body settle. Let your mind settle. And once you've settled, maybe around, 2-3 minutes, you can add the extended exhale that we taught you a few weeks ago, right? Inhaling through your nose and then exhaling through your mouth and making the exhale maybe 6 to 8 counts, a little bit longer than your inhale. All right. Let that exhale be slow, complete, no forcing, just making it longer. All right. This combination of this position of legs up the wall with this extended breath is really, really powerful. The pose tells your body, I'm safe, I'm grounded, I'm held, right? And then your breath tells your nervous system, yes, you can release, you can let go, you can clear that muscle tension, that stress that you're holding in your body. It's like a big warm hug in a way, of just settling in, right? And stay there for, 5 to 10 minutes total. This is not something you want to do just for 1 to 2 minutes and say, okay, check the box off and I'm done. Let your body actually settle into this. Give yourself 5 to 10 minutes. And you might even want to set a timer on your little phone that goes everywhere with you anyway, so that you're not watching the clock, so that you can just settle in and there's a timer that's saying, 10 minutes is up. And I think that you kind of will feel around maybe 5-6 minutes, you'll feel yourself sort of settle even more. Your breath will probably become a little bit more, smooth and sort of settled, and your mind will settle. That's the feeling that we really want you to focus on. And that's the feeling that we want you to really think about so that you do this every night, that you'll be like, oh, that felt really good. Okay. And then when the timer goes off, don't just jump up and come out of it. Just do it slowly. This again is not a race. It's not something to check off on your list. Take your time and then, roll to one side gently, stay there for a few breaths, and then slowly get yourself up to sitting. Okay. That's how you do this practice.
Right. And I would say that last part is so important, Avanti, what you're saying about coming out of it slowly. And I would even say if you have a sand timer, that's why we put one in our hormonal health prescription, because if you have a 5-minute sand timer, you can just turn it over and gently turn it over twice while you're laying there. And if it goes a little longer, that's great. Or if you have to use your phone, then just use a very relaxing chime, at the end. But what you'll notice is that over time, after, even about a week of doing it, that you might feel less tension in your body, that you might fall asleep faster. You might have some fading of that wired but tired feeling. And so, really, this can be so, so powerful. And, this, like we said, can help everyone. But there are ways to really individualize this kind of practice depending on your individual dosha. And, I'll just give you an example. For instance, I have a lot of vata in my vata pitta dosha, and I really have a lot of tension show up in my shoulders and neck and my mind just racing and racing. And so, For me, it really helps to just do some poses, just a few poses before this legs up the wall, where I can really do some way of feeling contained and held before I release. So for me, that's some compression poses, the poses that curl you inward, that create a sense of being held. And it's totally different for someone who has a lot of pitta, for instance, or maybe you can speak about, Avanti, what's helpful for you.
Yeah, I'm Pitta Kapha. And so the Pitta part, right? What we need to do is actually release some of the heat that is sitting in our belly, our liver, behind our eyes. Those are the seat of heat in Pitta. So what you want to do is release that heat. Some really simple poses to prepare for this legs up the wall is some forward folds or some gentle twists, right? That actually can really, really gently release that heat, which allows you to prepare and go into the legs up the wall a little bit better, right? Because the point here is that the legs up the wall is the destination, the preparation getting there that can make it even more powerful. That's what we're saying. Legs up the wall works for everybody. It makes it even more powerful when you do a little bit before to even prepare more going into it.
Right. That's just where the personalization piece really is so powerful. But, just even notice for yourself, if you only do legs up the wall, just notice how that feels for you. And maybe if it feels like it's helping, but not quite enough, you might want to know your dosha. You might want to have a sense of what your individual dosha is. And we have an assessment on mayurvasi.com that you can use to actually find that out. And then that can help you learn, what do I do to prepare for this release a little bit even more powerfully? So that's where the beauty of Ayurveda can really come in. But I'm excited for everyone to try just even intending to release some nervous system tension this week, because it's really built up and I can feel it. I'm guessing you all feel it too.
Right. And so that's your prescription this week, everyone. Legs up the wall with this extended exhale breath. Every evening, 5 to 10 minutes. It works for everyone. And again, if you haven't taken your dosha assessment, you can go over to mayurvasi.com, take 5 to 7 minutes. It's a free assessment and it will tell you what your dosha is. All right, everyone. Next week, it is the winter solstice and the last week of the year. It's the darkest day of the year on the winter solstice. And so we'll be giving you a circadian reset ritual to mark the transition from fall into winter, from this year into the new year. A way to really honor that turning point before the light starts to return. All right, friends, that's your weekly Health RX for this week. Until then, be well. Thanks for listening to the Weekly Health RX by Ayurvasi. Be sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen so you never miss your weekly prescription.
And make sure to take the Ayurvasi Dosha Data Assessment at mayurvasi.com, linked in the show notes, so you can unlock your biology and get your own personalized weekly prescription.